So you're going to buy real estate in the Dominican Republic, but how does it work getting a mortgage on an existing property versus financing a pre-construction property? I'm going to talk about all of it, including the risks and benefits to both. Let's dive in. What's up, everybody? I'm Jamie Gruber. I live in the Dominican Republic after quitting my high-paying job in the States. I teach people on this channel how I quit my job, live my dream, and everything in between. And today we're going to talk about buying real estate here in DR. A lot of people are interested in investing here or buying for retirement one day or just moving outright. And there are many options, but I'm going to focus on two. For you land people out there, man, I'll just buy a piece of property up in the mountains and build my own thing. This isn't for you. But here are the options that I look at and many do. First, you can buy a property that's already built, already operational, that is a resale property from a prior owner. So you have to figure out how to get a mortgage, what kind of taxes you're going to pay, insurance, and other costs. The other side is buying a pre-construction property. And in this case, you're figuring out, can I really do it for $5,000 down, like they say? How do I finance it? And also, of course, taxes, insurance, HOAs, and so on. Let's talk about buying an existing property. I see this as the lesser of the two risks. Both have risks like any property that you buy, but I see buying in-place construction as less risky. There are risks, I'll talk about it, but it's already built, it's already done, and here's how you would finance it. Mortgages in DR typically will require 30% down on the purchase price of the property. If buying in US dollars, your interest rate will be 7 to 9%, and you'll get a 20-year amortization. Now, two key points here, really important. One is you can find terms with different banks that are longer amortization, lower amount down, no doubt. What I'm giving you is run-of-the-mill in general, what you'll get at least as you're first interacting with banks here. The other important thing is the rate I cited, 7 to 9%. That is going to be fixed for a period of only 1 to 5 years of that 20-year amortization. After that, it becomes variable. And the duration of it being fixed is going to depend on how high you allow the interest rate to go. In other words, 7%, probably 1 year fixed. 9%, you could probably get 5 years fixed, just as an example. The other thing to keep in mind here is banks here are not like banks in the US when you're buying residential. In fact, it's more like banks buying commercial in the United States. Let me explain that distinction really quick. I invest in commercial multifamily in the United States. That's the backbone of my real estate investment portfolio. When you go to a bank in the US that's lending on commercial property, each bank sets their own terms. So you need to talk to a lot of them and you'll find a wide range of down payment, interest rate, amortization, when the rate becomes variable, and so on commercial loans in the United States. If you go for a residential loan, anybody that's bought a house in the US knows like every bank is pretty much offering the same thing because all of those loans on the residential side will be sold to Fannie and Freddie. Fannie and Freddie set the rates. They set the amortization. They set the standards by which the bank needs to create the loan. So typically, the rates are fairly fixed. There's a little variability. It's all 30-year or 15-year or even 40-year now. And you can get as low as 3.5% down on an FHA product or 0% on a VA loan, but 20% down is standard across the board. So again, here in DR, it acts more like the US commercial lending market, meaning go talk to a lot of banks and you'll get various terms. I'm giving you the middle. Okay, so you identified the property. You're going to go get a mortgage. What banks do you go to? There's a whole bunch. I'll give you a few that we've talked to. One, Scotiabank. Scotiabank is an international bank. They're very large here. And honestly, I've seen their ATMs in every town I've gone to in DR. Two is Banco Popular. Similarly, they're everywhere in country. They are a Dominican really only focused bank. Wide distribution of ATMs around the country and very well known. Third is Banco López de Haro. Again, a local bank. You won't find them as widely distributed as you do Banco Popular or Scotiabank. Another is Banreservas. Again, in most of the country, you'll find them. There's also BHD, haven't looked into them as much, and there's many, many more. In fact, drop it in the comments. What bank do you recommend financing with down here in DR? But again, you talk to these banks, generally they're going to tell you 30% down, 7 to 9% right now on the US dollar as I record this. If you're financing in pesos, the percentage is higher, and that rate is going to be fixed for 1 to 5 years. The other things to consider are that you will have a 3% transfer tax at sale. So if you're buying a $100,000 home, you'll need to put up $3,000 for the transfer tax once you purchase. Also, there is a 1% property tax on the value of the home above $170,000. In other words, if you buy a $200,000 home, 1% applies to the $30,000 USD, so $300 per year. On in-place construction, count on paying both of those. We'll talk about how you can get out of that if you're buying pre-construction. The other thing to know, talking to a lot of people down here, most people pay off their mortgage in a way shorter period than the 20 years. Because the rate becomes variable, many target that 5-year mark, 7-year mark, 10-year mark to get rid of the mortgage so they don't have a loan on the property. Again, that's anecdotal. I can't give you stats on percentage of properties that are paid off versus not, but I hear that from most people I talk to down here that already have purchased homes. Now, if you want to know where to buy, I'll drop a link below for the video that you need to watch of mine that tells you each neighborhood in DR that you should consider based on whether you're single, married, with kids, empty nesters, and so on. Now let's flip over to pre-construction. So you see this advertised all the time, right? You'll see this thing that says like for $5,000 down, you can reserve your 2-bedroom condo in this beautiful brand new community, which is true. Here's how you should expect this to go when financing. First off, you're financing directly with the developer. Banks here don't give you mortgages on pre-construction. Generally. Somebody shouting in the comments, right? Like, no, they do. Go to this bank. I get it. There's banks. Again, go check out the different banks. But generally speaking, banks don't give you mortgages on pre-construction. So what does that look like? You go to the developer, they say it's $5,000 down. True. And let's say you're buying a $100,000 condo. Let's work through these numbers. I'll throw it up on screen for you somewhere. So you have a $100,000 condo and you're going to put $5,000 down. That means $95,000 is owed. Yeah, that math works. What happens now is you're going to have to put down 20% total within 15 to 30 days after you reserve your purchase. That's typically when the contract is signed. So therefore, you have to add another $15,000 on this $100,000 condo up front within 30 days, so you have $20,000 out of pocket down on the property. So amazing. You got a $100,000 condo reserved with $20,000 out of pocket. Then you're going to have to finance 30% of the purchase price over the course of the build. Let's say for the sake of ease, this is going to be a 2.5-year build. That's 30 months. So you're going to need to pay down $30,000 over the course of the build, 30% on this $100,000 condo. That means $30,000 divided by 30 months is $1,000 a month. So just recapping here, you put $5,000 up front and within 30 days, you put another $15,000 to put $20,000 down on this $100,000 condo, 20%. Now you owe the builder 30% over the life of the build. And if this build takes 30 months, you owe $30,000 because that's 30% of $100,000. So it's $1,000 a month you're going to be paying until it's built and delivered to you. Then you've got $50,000 left to pay. Either you can pay that cash or you can go to the bank and get a mortgage. Now it's a built property and the bank can appraise it and the risk is lower for them to actually give you a mortgage. Now with pre-construction, I want to make sure you're aware of 2 things that I think you should do. First, check the contract with the developer to see what happens if they don't deliver your unit within the 30 months that they promised. A good contract, in my opinion, will say 30 months is the target, but if we don't deliver it within 36 months, giving themselves some buffer, things happen, then we're going to pay you back 1% of the value of the property every month that we're delayed beyond 36 months. Or something like that. The second thing you want to see in the contract is what happens if costs go up? How and where do you charge me back? Because they will. Even though you've agreed on $100,000, the contract is going to say, hey, if cost of construction or other cost overruns occur, you may be charged that difference. It can become meaning your $100,000 condo, $15,000 condo before it's delivered. Here's how we determine that. There's a website, fairly standard, find it right in the contract. You want to see language that says inflation data. If somebody knows it, please drop it in the comments below. But that website will say cost of goods, cost of materials has gone up X%. And some of these contracts will give a clause like, well, if that percentage goes up over 5% and sustains for 30 days or something like that, then we charge you the difference at that point. So again, just look at the contract and ask the question. It's very simple. 2 questions. What happens if you deliver this late? And how do you charge me additional expense if it happens? But here's the key with pre-construction. You should plan on this. Please, I beg of you, plan on this. Your pre-construction project will be delivered later than you expected, and it will cost you more than you initially agreed to. Expect that. Look, if it doesn't, they hit the timeline and you don't spend another dollar, how happy will you be? But I would go in with the mindset and the budget that it's going to cost you 10 or 15% more than what you paid for this pre-construction project. It's almost like when people visit down here and they get upset that, oh, the service is taking too long. And what's always the response? I always say, it's like, calm down. Stop being so... It's island time, man. Like, just enjoy. What's the point of being mad at the guy taking an extra 15 minutes to bring your drink? American. Not a fun way to spend your time and money down here when you're vacationing. Same thing applies with the property. Plan on overruns, plan on late delivery. And as we speak right now, the Haitian border crisis is happening. There's a lot of people being shipped back over the border by the Dominican government. So cost of labor has gone up. It's less plentiful because most of the people building these properties are Haitian. So if you have less of them and you have to hire higher cost labor, costs go up and timelines increase as well. But that's how you finance the two sides. That's how you consider the two sides and how you buy both of them. So what are some risks and benefits? Let's start with buying an in-place property and getting a mortgage. The risks to buying a property that's already there, somebody lives in and they're reselling, is one, do you have a good lawyer to determine the title history? DR has really good property laws, but that doesn't mean that they have great tracking on all these properties. So you want to make sure you've got a great lawyer, great title company reviewing the history of this property so you can make sure there's no encumbrances, if you will, on your title as you purchase the property. But there's a risk there, so make sure you mitigate that. Second is financing is harder. Financing with a bank is harder than just paying a percentage to the developer and then paying over time and then knowing at the end of it you can either save the money to pay it off, borrow it from somebody in the States, take it out of your 401k as a loan and pay that $50K we talked about, whatever. It's way easier to finance pre-construction than it is in-place construction. It's just more of a headache. And third is the property condition. It may look great and you know it's concrete block with rebar, but you need to make sure you hire an inspector, a really good one, to go look through the property and make sure it's good. Those are the risks to buying in place. The benefits, however, are that it's done first and foremost. And if you're looking to move or get here or have a place to vacation at immediately versus 2 or 3 years from now, that to me is a major benefit. I prefer buying in place. That's me. I think, again, overall, it is the less risky play. Let's talk about buying pre-construction. What are the risks there? Well, the first risk is it never gets done. I do think that this is more exception than people will say. News of DR, unfortunately, is always about like the thing that didn't go right, the thing that was bad, the lady who flew home and died mysteriously from DR without any context to that article. It really annoys me because it's like implied, oh, flew home and died mysteriously. Third world country, and she must have eaten something, or don't go to Dominican Republic. Like, that is a hurtful thing for people here to have to endure. They make their living off of the tourism industry, and this New York Post headline implying that a lady dies because of being down here and drinking some bad liquor in a mini bar or eating at the wrong buffet. It's just, it pisses me off. She ended up dying of natural causes. She had a stroke. Terrible, terrible story. My point, though, is the media and the news can make DR seem more dangerous, more unsafe, not a great place. Oh my God, be careful. Than the reality of living and being here. Even those of you who say, oh, but you're in the bubble of Punta Cana, man. Screw off. Everybody's in a bubble. We all live in a bubble somewhere. We all choose the bubble we want to live in. This is the one I chose to live in. Sorry I got angry there. My point is, a property not being completed has happened. It can happen, and that is the risk to a pre-construction property. But by and large, properties get delivered at some point. Might be late, but they get delivered. But that is a risk of buying pre-construction. The second risk is it not being done right. I don't think developers want to charge you more. So what they'll do if they have labor issues and they need to spend more money, they may cut back on some of the details in your unit. Trim, number of outlets. People always get on me like, you're always about the outlets. Yes. Here in DR, older houses, you see one outlet in the corner with 86 different cords in it and all these power strips. Everything's plugged into one outlet. Look for outlets, please.
You see one outlet in the corner with 86 different cords in it
outlets and all these power strips. So everything's plugged into one outlet. In the house that you're buying or in the property that you're having constructed. But that's a risk. Like, you are in the US, they're building down here, you're checking in every 6 to 12 months. And when you come and check in, it's like, wait a minute, that's not done the way I wanted it to, and now you're gonna have to redo it. They want to charge you for it or whatever. So to mitigate those risks, first off, vet the developer. Have they done deals here before? Have they developed property? Are they a large player? Are they international? Again, doesn't mean they have to be, but what is your risk tolerance? Do you want somebody that you know has developed tons of properties, or are you willing to bet on a newer developer? Up to you. And also, if you have the ability to be local or have somebody local go check on the property every couple of weeks, the development every month, maybe something like that, you're less likely to have those little shortcuts show up in the final product that you get delivered. Another risk of pre-construction is, what is that community going to be? If you're buying to live there, but it's a bunch of Airbnbs, that might not be a fit for you. So is there a school going into that community? How are they developing it? What are they looking for? Do they have any bylaws around Airbnb? You want to know that before you buy to make sure you're protecting your investment. But here are the benefits to pre-construction. First is the Confoutur law. If you're not familiar with this, take a look at it. It's spelled out right here for you. This law, if your development is approved, and many of them are, especially in the tourist hubs of Punta Cana, Puerto Plata, and so on, you will waive that 3% transfer tax I talked about, and you'll waive property taxes for 15 15 years. That's a major benefit if you're buying pre-construction. The other benefit is it's way easier to finance, as we've talked about. You're financing with the developer, not with the bank, at least not initially, and it gives you time to kind of get your ducks in a row and figure out how you're going to pay the balance off. Now, if you want to know where to invest, tap this video right here. I break down neighborhood by neighborhood where you can invest based on your lifestyle and economic status. 90% of people watching this aren't subscribers. That's crazy to me. Would appreciate you hitting that button. Hit the notification for more, and I'll see you next time.